Hi, this is Fred Barstein, 401k TV. I'm here with Colin Clark from Washington Financial Group. And we wanted to ask him about one of our favorite subjects, which is fee benchmarking. Everyone loves to do fee benchmarking. So Colin, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Colin Clark again with the WFG Retirement. I'm an associate retirement plan specialist. And one of my specialties and one of the ways I support the group and our over 200 clients is through benchmarking. And there are a couple different types of benchmarking that we do. I wanted to kind of go over a couple of the different types of benchmarks and also when do we benchmark and when do we actually do an RFP.
Right, great.
So we usually start off, and one of the annual deliverables we have for all of our clients is we run a fee benchmarking report done by Fiduciary Benchmarks. And I'm sure people may be familiar with that name or not, but they're an independent third party. And we're benchmarking three things. We're benchmarking the record keeping, the investments, and the advisor. Believe it or not, we benchmark ourselves.
You do.
So we want to make sure that our fees are in line with the market, and that essentially you're helping to do the best, help your client with their fiduciary responsibilities, but also make sure we stay in business.
Right. And so how often should somebody benchmark, and how often should they do an RFP for their record keeper or their advisor?
So we believe you should benchmark every year. There are different factors. Obviously, record keepers, I'm sure the viewers will know. The record keepers are looking at three things: number of participants, average account balance, and also total number of assets. If there are major fluctuations in those, you're going to want to benchmark the plan. As these plans grow and you enter different market segments, then you're going to have different providers that are going to provide different services to the plan. And there are going to be different providers where your client will be in the wheelhouse, essentially. So we believe you use the benchmarking report to go back to the provider. Hey, we really don't want to make changes, but we want to make sure we're in line with the market. And then we will negotiate on behalf of the client to make sure that all the fees are in line. And if that means making investment changes, that means lowering the required revenue sharing by the record keeper, the administrator, and as I mentioned before, even making sure our fees in line, especially in the small plan market, the under 20 market. There's a lot of growth, a lot of movement. And so you really have to be on top of it.
Right. And so annual benchmarking, how often should you do a formal RFP?
We believe every 2 to 3 years. I think on the shorter end of the spectrum would be a plan or a company, especially in the markets we serve. We have a lot of clients that grow really quickly.
Yes.
Through mergers, acquisitions, through organic growth. So a 2-year cycle is not terrible. No one likes to change record keepers. It's never fun. I always have a saying. I've never met a conversion I like.
Right.
And no conversion's ever perfect, but sometimes it's necessary.
Right.
Believe it or not, it's not fees, though, is the number one reason people move. It's actually service.
Service, yeah.
So we benchmark service, we benchmark technology and fees. But I think 3 years is going to be pretty typical.
3 years, yeah.
2 years is an exception. If you do a good job and stay on top of the benchmarking and the provider's doing well, I think you have enough documentation from a fiduciary perspective to say, I don't know if we need to go out to market necessarily.
Right. And then that brings up a good point. Sometimes there can be significant changes, maybe a merger or acquisition at the record keeper. Is that something that would cause an RFP?
Absolutely. So you've seen a lot of that recently in the marketplace. We actually, I believe vendors move through cycles, and so mergers and acquisitions are where there are sometimes growing pains, and so the service model may be disrupted. And so we are constantly doing due diligence and evaluating our service provider partners, because as an independent firm, we're going to do business with anyone that does business with us. So we have to make sure if we're going to present someone to a client, we've done our homework to make sure that they're in a place that they're going to service our client in the best way possible. But if that service falls off, whether it be through M&A or some sort of growth of the firm, that they are not keeping up with their service model, then we need to hold them accountable to that.
And with all of this, it's about documentation, right?
Always. It's a process. Whether you do the quick benchmarking, where you're just benchmarking the fees, versus a full RFP, you're always going to put that in your fiduciary file, make sure that you document why you stayed, why you're moving, and the reasons behind it.
So for your clients, do you charge to do the RFP and the benchmarking, or is that included?
That's a great question. So the answer is both. So it's a case-by-case basis. We typically want to be a full-service advisor consultant to the firm, and in those cases, our annual fee would include that 2 to 3 year project. We have been hired on a case-by-case basis where we are asked to just do a vendor search. In some cases, it leads to becoming a full-service consultant for the firm. In some cases, it is just a kind of a one-off, and you do it on a project basis, and you build a client and move on.
So what plan sizes do you usually get engaged just to do the RFP record-keeping search for?
So we have plans in every market segment, and I would say the plans in the 50 million and above are starting to do the one-off RFPs where they're hiring someone like ourselves to do that. I think the under 50 million market, you're going to see that the client is going to have that included in the price
Full service.
The full service model, yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching 401k TV.